Okay, Ms. Hightower.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good.
I have one question, because when it comes down to anything that requires people to have to relocate, and I became a victim of that, how many people are at stake of being subjected to relocate? How many people?
How many businesses?
Residents? Or is it just business?
It's just businesses.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
No
Any other
problem.
questions from the audience? Any other questions from, oh, we got a question.
Where's the website, I guess, where I can review SWC's planning for?
Okay, so we just updated our website a few months ago, but I'm pretty sure it's douglasdev.com.
Good information.
Yes.
Okay, great. Any other questions, Alex? All right, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming. It's a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have, next up, another development. This is in Kevin's area. This is very exciting because we have talked about this for several years. It's an update on parcel 42 by 10 Square. Come on up.
Do I get hooked up to your projector?
Yeah, go ahead.
How do I?
I don't know. NBC #1, there you go.
Wait, you think about the whole-
That's not ours.
Turn it off. Connect. Yes, I just need to project this on some friendly surface.
project on that wall there.
Yeah.
I can turn down.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marlis Williams. I'm with 10 Square.
Marla, do you want to go ahead and use the microphone over there, please?
Oh, okay. Do you mind if I
Yeah,
take
get
it off of here and?
Yeah.
Okay. It's easier to leave it here. Again, my name is Marlis Williams. I'm with 10 Square. And I'm excited to tell you about our development that's planned for 7th and R. We're calling it Parcel 42 for now until we come up with a more creative name for it. And we're very excited. We appreciate the opportunity to develop it. And we're just going to go over a little bit of our development. And this is an introduction. We're really just at the beginning. So we've recently been awarded the project. Last month, we signed our initial term sheet with the district, which outlines the basic terms under which we'll build this project. And the next major step is that we'll have to go through council approval, which we're hoping will happen sometime January, February of 2014. This is gonna be tricky. I wish I could take this thing off, because then I have to keep walking back and forth. All right, let's see. So we're gonna be brief here, probably just 6 or 7 minutes. Again, the presentation team, I'm Marlis Williams, if you couldn't figure out how to pronounce my name, or maybe it's easier if you see it spelled. Bernie Demchuk's gonna talk about an exciting lobby installation that we have planned for Parcel 42 that will really respect the history and give a demonstration of the past of the Shaw community. And then Sasha Rosen, our architect, will also talk about our design. So a little bit about 10 Square. 10 Square is a development company based here in DC. It started by Josh Kern, who's a LaDroit Park resident, so you can take comfort in knowing that if there's something that you don't like, you can go right around the corner and you can knock on Josh's door. He's not here, so I can say that. He's actually en route. His wife is in labor as we speak, so he apologizes that he couldn't come, but I think we'll understand under the circumstances. And 10 Square specializes in institutional and multifamily development. So a little bit about the project. We have 105 apartments. This is a complete rental development. We have 20% of the units designated for affordable housing. So for those of you who were here to hear our initial presentation when we were competing for the parcel, there's one important change that we made during what's called the best and final offer. So after we submitted our initial offer to the district, all of the finalists had an opportunity to go back to the district with an improved proposal if you chose to do so. So what we're now offering is affordability at the 50, 40, and 30% AMI levels, AMI being the average median income of the area. So initially we had 50%, so for families who are making 50% of the average median income, and now we're going down to as low as 30% to try to make this housing as affordable as possible for families. And this is something that we learned in consultation with many of you in the room and other community organizations. A little bit about the retail and parking. So what we tried to do with the retail is to have not just an opportunity for folks to come and dine. We partnered with Kara Carpenter, who's a local entrepreneur. She's DC based, she's a DC resident. She has a restaurant called Dom Koo, that's in Petworth. So she has experience opening restaurants in neighborhoods that have not had a number of options available to them. So she has a concept called Nourish. So in addition to being a restaurant, it's going to be a culinary entrepreneurship incubator. So we're going to actually have classes, have training for residents of the community to come in to learn not just how to work. A lot of these incubators, they teach you how to work in the kitchen, but they don't necessarily teach you how to go out and start your own business. So we'll have classroom opportunities, and you'll even be able to, if you're part of the curriculum or part of the class, you can have your restaurant, have your food featured there once a month or once every 2 weeks. We have to figure out the exact schedule, but it's an opportunity for you to also showcase the various meals that you're working on. And then Old City Farm and Guild is not just going to be a permanent resident of the parcel. And Old City Farm and Guild is a local, again, another DC-based company. They're a garden store, but they're also right now working with us and working with the district to have a temporary use on the current location. So it's not vacant while we're going through the PUD and development and pre-development process. We can actually have the garden store located there so we can activate that block or that corner. And then for parking in the building, we're going to have approximately 40 spaces underground for parking. Community benefits. Community benefits, a PUD process, which you just heard mentioned, gives the community opportunity to weigh in on what we're doing. We look forward to that community input. You know, several of you, many of you around the room can attest to the fact that we've already been out in the community, and we're excited to be here with the ANC today, and I guarantee you this won't be our last time in front of you. Affordable housing, we mentioned 20% of the units. Temporary uses, we mentioned with the garden store being there while we're doing pre-development. We're targeting a LEED silver design, which is a highly sustainable. Everyone knows about green, the importance of green, so that is actually absolutely going to be part of our development effort, and the lobby installation. So I'm going to turn this over for a couple minutes for Bernie Demchuk, who's one of your neighbors, to talk about what we're contemplating with the lobby installation.
Thank you, Miles. Could you pass them around, please? Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. I'm Bernard Demchuk, and I live around the corner on French Street, and my commissioner is Mr. Padro. Been my commissioner forever, and he's the best in the city. No disrespect to the other commissioners. I'm an African-American historian at the George Washington University. I come to Shaw through the University of Maryland way long time ago, back in the 60s, when I would take the bus from Maryland to 7th and Rhode Island. And I get off the bus here and I go right to the Southern Dining Room and I get my share of soul food. And then from there I'd go right to the Howard Theater and I would listen to doo-wop and soul shows, and then I would find my way to Ben's Chili Bowl afterwards. And of course, eventually at some time or another, as a Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee activist, I'd find myself at Howard University or at the SNCC headquarters on U Street. Consequently, over the years, I have adopted this community as my community. I've been here for 30 years on French Street. And I have a theory about Black history in DC, and that theory is that the corridors, the streets, the spaces, the buildings, the material culture of a city is extremely important to preserve and respect. So consequently, you may know about the Stevens School in Foggy Bottom, where I teach and where I work. The Stevens School is the longest serving, no longer serving, it just closed, high school for African Americans in the city, 1868, named after Thaddeus Stevens. In that school is going to be either a condo, an apartment, and or a hotel, and we're going to make sure that lobby respects the history of the Stevens School. It was the school for the first school for African American children after emancipation in 1868. Consequently, I've been studying and realizing some of the major corridors in Washington, D.C. that honor and respect African American history. P Street in Foggy Bottom in Georgetown run right through major historic black communities in Foggy Bottom and Georgetown. H Street in Northeast, 14th Street up to Columbia Heights, U Street, of course, known as the Black Broadway, Nichols Avenue, now known as Martin Luther King Boulevard in Southeast, and to me, the most important street of all the streets is 7th Street. 7th Street is very specific in relation to its location down to the wharf to the Potomac River. Coming up the Potomac River, at the National Archives used to be the central market of Washington, D.C., which also was a major area for free African Americans giving their goods, selling their goods. Also, slave pens were there as well. From 7th Street all the way up to East Street, we run into the National Council of Negro Women, 633 Pennsylvania Avenue. We go up further to the snow riot of 1835, to the Pearl Incident of 1848, to Uncle Tom's Cabin was literally written on 7th Street at the National Era newspaper, to Charles Hamilton Houston's law firm on 7th Street, right on up to Asbury Dwellings, Shoal Junior High School, right on up to, right on up to, I'm sorry. So, in short, right on up to Howard Theater, right on up to Howard University, keep going to Billy Simpson's, etc. That is 7th Street. 424 steps from Carter G. Woodson's house to the lobby of P42, to the lobby of Parcel 42. 424 steps. I can go on and on about 7th Street, but it's all right here in this document. And what we're going to do with your support is when you walk into the lobby of the parcel, of the development, you will walk on a terrazzo map of 7th Street. And all through that lobby, all through that map, you will be able to read all of this history that I just mentioned. Not only black history, but Jewish history. There's a very good reason why 6th and I Street Historic Synagogue is at 6th and I. There were 4 synagogues up and down 7th Street, plus the Young Men's Hebrew Association. So what we're going to do, develop a black history, Jewish history of Shaw and of 7th Street, walking on the floor. We'll have murals, we'll have photos, we'll have paintings, we'll have everything else. And Alex Padro, he's one of my advisors, and I'm asking him to help me put together focus groups over the next year to go over this plan and discuss it and get your input on what should be in that lobby on Parcel 42. Thank you very much.
And our final presenter will be Sasha Rosen, our architect, to talk a little bit about the design of the building.
Thanks, Marlis. Thanks, Professor Demchuk. My name is Sasha Rosen. I'm a principal of R2L Architects. We're DC CBE located in Georgetown. We've assembled a team of engineers and designers, almost entirely from the District of Columbia, to work on this project. What you're looking at here is a very preliminary design of the project. It's going to evolve, but we hope this gives the general character and the overall massing of the project, the richness of the materials and the detailing. We've recently completed the addition to the Wonder Bread building. If you know that, that was my firm who did the design, with a lot of input from Commissioner Padro and his support, and the support from this ANC, so thank you for that. So we're fairly close to here. This obviously is a building of a different scale. There's no existing building to work with, but one of the things that we find interesting in cities is that they grow over time, and I think just as Professor Demchuk is going to do a lobby installation that really celebrates the history of this area, this neighborhood of the district, we want the building also to represent the ongoing history and the changing nature of this part of town. So, and that's why when you look at the building elevation, it looks like a couple of different parts. There's sort of something apart that faces onto 7th Street and really addresses that. I think that's actually the part that I'd like to mess with a little bit more and make better. And then there's the part that faces Rhode Island Avenue, that little bit of R Street. And then on the top is something a little bit different. Again, if you've, I hope you all like Wonder Bread. I'd love to hear your comments on that. but we did a very different expression on the top that contrasts with the historic building, and so we'd like to do something interesting here. That may change as well a little bit. But anyway, we just want to show you that it's going to be, we think, a very impressive building. It's going to be visible because of the location, from a lot of different areas. People are going to see it coming from Metro, walking around the neighborhood, people living here, and then, of course, people driving up and down Rhode Island Avenue. So we'd love to have a very open discussion of what people like to see and what they don't. This is a great building here, but obviously very different than things that are around. And as we anticipate, a fairly lengthy public process, we'll be open to comments throughout the design process. Thank you.
Okay.
We don't have to go through it. We can go through this another time. We just had more detailed floor plan, so I'm gonna open it up for questions now.
Yeah.
So this is in Kevin's area, so Kevin's going to lead the discussion.
Sure. If everything goes as planned, in the best case scenario, when do you anticipate the start date and the completion date of this project?
So we're hoping to have the PUD done in 2015, beginning of 2015, and construction completion 2017.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that 20% will be affordable at 50, 40, and 30 AMI.
Yes.
Could you, so that's 21 units.
21 units, that's right.
And out of the 21, how many would be 50, 40, and 30? Do you know that?
I don't know if I wrote it down. So we have 14 at 50%, 4 at 40%, and 3 at 30%. Again, 14 units at 50% AMI, 4 units at 40%, and 3 units at 30% AMI. And that's across all units. So that will be a mix of studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms.
Okay. We, as you probably remember, we had a meeting a few weeks ago, and we discussed one issue that was really an important issue was the parking. And at that time, you all said that there was 37 parking spaces that you are allotted here for a building that has 105 units and a retail commercial space that will be on the first level. Has there been any, I mean, as we discussed that parking is a problem here in this area, we all get complaints from our constituents regarding the lack of parking and bringing in over 100 people into the neighborhood and also commercial space with only 37 parking spaces. That would be a problem. Have there been any movement on that, or have you all talked to anyone or made any decisions regarding that?
We haven't. We've heard the concern, but we haven't made any decisions. So as we mentioned before, that puts us within the zoning regulations for the building that we're developing. But obviously, we need to be in consultation with the community, and we've heard it not just from you, but from other folks as well. So we're considering it. We just don't have a final decision on it right now.
Who will make it?
Yes, please. Ivan Matthews is our project manager. He actually works with the district in the deputy mayor's office. If you want.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ivan Matthews. I'm with the Deputy Mayor's Office for Planning and Economic Development, and I'm the project manager working on this project. To add additional clarity on your question, it is a topic that we're still discussing with the development team, and we are discussing with the other DC agencies. In our RFEI that went out last year, we asked for development proposals that minimize the amount of parking. And that is because district agencies feel that because of the location being so close to the metro and the other metro stops that are close by, that we wanted to allow for minimizing the amount of parking. Plus, we figured that would allow for a greater opportunity of affordable housing, because there's only so many dollars that can be contributed in some way, shape, or form. And what we want to do is try to minimize the parking footprint, but allow for a greater affordable housing solution. But we have not taken it off the table. We understand the community's concerns. I think it was included in the letter that was submitted with the RFEI and multiple discussions, and then also the response letter that was sent back regarding the initial responses.
Well, I can tell you that simply being in close proximity to the metro station does not alleviate parking problems. On the weekends, people drive to this area to get on the metro. They park in the area. People who patronize U Street park in this area or walk to U Street. People who come to Howard Theater It's right next to the metro station. They bring their cars, they park in this area. So being in close proximity to a metro station does not alleviate the problem of parking. And that is something that will cause a lot of problems in this area. We get complaints all the time regarding that. Residents come home, then they can't find a parking space. And bringing in 105 units, I find it difficult to believe that 37 parking spaces for over 100 people would be enough. And when you include the commercial aspect, I think that is going to cause problems, and that's something that really needs to be addressed.
And I appreciate you continuing to voice that concern, and that's something that we'll continue to discuss with the community and with the development team and the other DC agencies as we move forward.
I share Commissioner Chappell's reservations about the limitation on the amount of parking provided at this location. The reality is that if you build it the way that you're building this building right now, the customers will not come to that retail. This retail will be a failure. 40 spaces is underparked by any measure. Yes, you're within the zoning regulations, but you have to take into account the context that the building is in. And as Commissioner Chappell mentioned, we have severe parking issues in this community. We've resorted to the implementation of residents-only parking, and that still is challenged in order to be able to make sure that folks that live in this neighborhood can find a parking space when they come home. So the suggestion that everybody is going to take the metro, or everybody's going to jump on a bus, or everybody's going to take a bicycle just doesn't fly. And I think that this is important enough, an issue related to this development, that and I have not discussed this with Commissioner Chappell, and I hope that he would support it, but I'm actually going to move that Advisory Neighborhood Commission 6E communicate to the Deputy Mayor's office that the maximum amount of parking, at least 2 levels of parking, should be provided in order to be able to ensure that the development of Parcel 42 does not end up having a deleterious effect on the quality of life of the people that live in this neighborhood today. And I would ask for a second.
Can we have the discussion before we make motion?
Let me also say that, I think.
There's a motion on the table and it's been seconded, so now.
Okay, so I'm not sure. I think we have to bring in Harriet Trigoni. Am I correct, Ivan? Harriet, that seems to be the issue.
Well, I think it would be a good idea if the ANCR community asked Harriet Trigoni or somebody else from the Office of Planning and DDOT to also come in and possibly myself or somebody else from our office to sit down and discuss this firsthand with the ANC and the community.
So it's we have several agencies involved, as you said. So, but I think when we had, Kevin and I had met with the developer, that it was basically this overall theme that there's going to be a kumbaya moment, people are going to be on their bicycles, and to go along with Alex and Kevin, that's just not true. So, and that's unfortunate, but that's the reality check in this neighborhood.
Understand.
So, okay. Mark?
He's got a motion on the floor, so I guess I can't make any comments.
No, you can discuss. Just before it was seconded, you couldn't.
Large. I have a couple of questions for you all.
Okay.
If I'm guessing correctly, the 40 parking spaces means for the 105 units, it's about 1 to every 3 people. Is that about right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that also?
Well, 1 to every 3 units, you mean?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's 1 to 3 ratio. Is that including your retail parking?
That's all parking.
That's everything. So this is to eliminate street parking, to have this for retail? Do you have any idea what kind of retail you are considering?
Yes, there's going to be a restaurant and a garden store there.
Okay, so people going to that will park in that underground parking lot? Is that what you're suggesting?
Between underground parking, public transit, and other means, yes.
Okay.
Street parking.
I live in City Vista, and we have a retail parking lot that is empty every day of the week because nobody uses it. We have underground parking for the K, the L, and the Gables building, and people can't even sell those parking spaces because people are not buying cars. Once they live in a city, they start commuting and using public transportation. So I guess I have a different opinion than other commissioners with regard to that, because also within my building, people who were in affordable housing units could not buy parking spaces. Are you eliminating people who are in ADUs from renting or using? Is it free parking? Is it paid parking? Is it like a colonial lot? What are we talking about?
We're still working on that. We haven't decided how we're going to pay for all the parking that the community wants.
I mean, because parking is very expensive for you guys if it's not going to be utilized. I mean, I see what's happening with the 40 or 50 spaces that are empty every single day in my building at $60,000 to $100,000 a space. It's wasted money for the developer because he had to put it in there. And he's not getting any money back on it, neither is the vendor who is doing the business of running a parking lot. But you don't have that information as of yet, is that correct?
That's correct.
We're still studying.
Okay. The two retail, there's just that garden shop and the
restaurant.
And the restaurant. And I am assuming then that you're depending on street parking for most of that? Is that correct?
I would say a combination of street parking, the underground parking, and public transportation.
Okay.
All right, as for the benefit of all this, could you please repeat the motion?
Sure, and again, to understand the dynamics here, how many seats are proposed for this restaurant?
We haven't gotten to that level of detail yet, so I'm not sure.
Okay, and are you aware that on Sundays when United House of Prayer has services, there are no parking spaces available on Senate Street or nearby?
I am aware of that. I know it's tough there, yes.
So basically, you're consigning those businesses to not being able to have customers on Sundays. Just as an example of one day, when the Howard has a big event, same issue until midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. So I just want to make sure that you understand what you would be doing to your commercial tenants by not providing parking.
Yes, I understand.
So again, my motion is that Advisory Neighborhood 6E communicate to the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development that the maximum amount of parking at a minimum 2 levels of parking should be incorporated into 10 Squares development of parcel 42 in order to ensure that there would not be severe deleterious effects on the community and its quality of life as a result of the construction of this project.
And Kevin?
How many spaces are you saying?
It's not saying we want to hear the maximum that they can fit on 2 levels of parking.
And if you had 2 levels of parking and you asked for the maximum, are we talking 100 spaces?
But we're not prepared to answer that right now. We'd have to work with our architect to see what's allowable.
I noticed you mentioned families. What's the average size of the units in that property that you're proposing?
Do you remember I have that? Pull it over.
About, I think, 700 square feet.
Do you expect families to live in 700 square feet of living space?
You said
No,
average.
that's the average size. So the
Average size from the
2-bedroom
studio
units
to
are
the
about
2
1,000 square feet.
The average size of 700 is not a whole lot of space for a family to reside.
Right, the 2-bedroom units are 1,000 square feet. The average, when you include efficiencies in 1 bedrooms, comes down to 700.
And what is the ratio as far as 2 bedrooms versus studios versus 1 bedroom?
It's about a third, a third, a third.
Yeah, 28 studios, 42 1-bedroom, and 35 2-bedrooms.
So you have some units as small as 400 square feet, 500 square feet?
Yeah, they're smaller.
That's
They're
pretty
small
small.
efficiencies, yes.
I just wanted the public to know how small these units are going to be.
Right.
So if you increase the size of the units, maybe that would decrease the number of people that would need parking. Because 500, 600 square feet is not a lot of square footage to live in, am I right?
Yeah, it just makes it more expensive for the people who live there.
Okay, so we're gonna finish the motion. So Kevin seconded, correct?
Yes.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Arch? I'm opposed. Opposed, okay, so we've got 5 yays and 1 nay. March? Okay. All right, motion passes. All right, so now, any additional comments from the commissioners? Alex?
Mr. Rosen, I want to congratulate you on the job that you did at Wonder Bread. I think the response, both from the architectural community, I just got Architecture DC magazine in the mail yesterday, where there was a great article about that and the Progression Place development. And all the responses that I've heard from the community have all been extremely laudatory. And I've had the privilege of being in the building for some events, and I can't wait for there to be permanent tenants to be in that building. That having been said, I expressed to Mr. Kern in a meeting a number of months ago that I'm not as excited about this very initial, admittedly, design for this building. This is a very important corner in the District of Columbia. You know, tens of thousands of eyes look at this corner every single day. Commuters on buses, in cars, people walking up and down the street. When this commission communicated to the deputy mayor what their priorities were for this particular development, one of them was that this should be a signature, iconic building that is reflective of its prominence, that takes into account that several of the other corners on the intersection have buildings by major architects and have won awards going back to the original manual training school, which is now Asbury Dwellings, the Washington Annual Library that we're sitting in. I know that you're capable of doing better. I know you're capable of producing a building that will wow people when they go by. That's what we're hoping to see.
Yeah, let me quickly respond to that. Thank you very much, actually, for your comments about Wonder Bread. That actually is very important to me personally and to our firm. So thank you for your comments, and I hope everyone enjoys that building. And yes, absolutely, I'll